It'll still be just a minute or two before we start. Bear with us, please, just a second. Hey, good morning. This regular meeting of the Lone Star College System Board of Trustees is now called to order at 10:32 a.m. My apologies for the delay. If everyone would please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, I will lead it. I pledge allegiance to the flag. Thank you. We'll now do a roll call vote. Trustee Saldivar.
Here.
Thank you. Trustee Wilson. Thank you. Trustee Broussard. Thank you. Trustee Stoma
Here.
is present online. Thank you. Trustee Mesa is present online. Yes, sir. Thank you. Good morning. Trustee Murillo.
Present.
Thank you. Trustee Vogt. Absent. Trustee Kane.
Here.
Thank you, Trustee Kane. Chancellor Castillo, has notice of this meeting been properly posted?
Yes, Chairman, I certify that the notice of this meeting has been published and posted in accordance with the law.
Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Ms. Barnett, has anyone signed up to offer public comment?
Yes, we have 3 in-person public commenters. First is Dr. John Bergdorf.
Okay. Mr. Bergdorf, if you'll come forward, Ms. Barnett, when he's finished, I'll ask you to call the next speaker, and if you'll call him by name, please. Thank you. Welcome. In accordance with board policy, each speaker is allowed to speak for up to 5 minutes. There is a timer on the podium with lights. When the light turns red, your time has expired. As a reminder, Lone Star College System policy states that the board may not respond to citizens' questions or comments on subjects not noticed on the agenda, except to cite existing policies or state factual information. Please proceed, sir. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Chairman Sullivan. Thank you, everyone, and good morning. I am Dr. John Bergdorf, president of the American Federation of Teachers at Lone Star College, and thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you again this morning. Today, I would like to report about a new program sponsored by the AFT at the national level called the Fight for Affordability. As everyone knows, if someone's goal in life is to make a lot of money, education is not the career to choose. Whether we are faculty, staff, or administrators, we do what we do to make a difference in the lives of others. However, we still hope to make enough money to provide for our children, to live in safe housing, to plan for a dignified retirement, and to be able to do all of that without falling into crushing debt. Achieving those objectives has been getting more challenging for some time, but the strain has been accelerating over the last year or so. The Consumer Price Index for the 12-month period ending April 2026 has risen to 3.8%, driven largely by energy prices that are up a whopping 17.9% over the same 12-month period. For context, that inflation rate is more than double what it was at the beginning of the year. Today, I want to tell you about how our union is trying to help. Of course, we are continuing efforts to advocate for changes at the state and national levels. We are also focusing on how to help individual employees in distress. For many years, for example, we have provided clinics to help faculty and staff struggling with student debt. In our new campaign, we broaden our horizons to include an array of financial challenges union members from across the country have identified. These challenges include housing, healthcare, childcare, college tuition, and credit card and medical debt. AFT has a new website, aft.org/affordability, where we have posted a series of life literacy videos offering general advice on how to deal with the most prevalent forms of debt Americans face. These videos show how to navigate the maze of dealing with debt collectors, accessing available resources, and protecting consumer rights. We have also expanded our live debt clinics, both in person and online. Interested individuals can find the schedule at the same website, aft.org/affordability. The website also includes an AI tool called the Debt Navigator. This tool takes information provided by the participant and develops an individualized plan to guide them to the resources they need and the steps that they should take. These resources are available to all faculty and staff, both K through 12 and college level across the country, whether they are members of AFT or not. To learn more, either for yourself or for people you know, we invite everyone to visit the Fight for Affordability website at aft.org/affordability. Thank you so much for your kind attention, and I wish you all a restful and happy summer.
Thank you very much, sir. Ms. Barnett, if you call the next speaker, please.
District Governor Mike George.
And welcome, Mr. George, and the 5 minutes will apply to you as well, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. To the Lone Star College System Board of Trustees and to Chancellor Mark K. Castillo, I'm Mike George and I serve as District Governor for Multiple District 2, District 2S2 for Lions International. I would like to personally extend my gratitude to Dr. Benny Lambert, who serves as the president of North Harris College. Our district has utilized the North Harris campus for many of our training sessions for our Lions district. We hope to continue to use the facility to host our training sessions and possibly expand the use to other campuses. For those who may not know, Lions Club International is the largest service organization in the world with more than 1.4 million members located in over 200 countries. We are a volunteer organization. Our 8 pillars of service include vision, hunger, diabetes, childhood cancer, disaster relief, environment, humanitarian, and we also serve the hearing impaired and are taking steps to include mental health. The reason for my visit today is to highlight and expound on the leadership qualities of a special person who has served the Lone Star College system for the last 4.5 years in academic affairs. Dr. Sherelle Laster. Last year, when I became district governor, I knew I wanted Lions Sherelle on my team. Her honesty, energy, and integrity were just some of the characteristics that stood out to me. I asked her to be my global team service chair, to which she readily accepted. I also had appointed others to be my global extension chair and global membership chair, but about 2 months in, they resigned for personal reasons. When Lions Sherelle heard about it, she called me and offered to help in any way she could. She took on the added responsibilities and helped immediately and immensely, but it didn't end there. This past February, when I was putting together my committee for our annual district convention, I reached out to the district for anyone to chair the committee. It was crickets. One could hear them chirping in the silence. So I told the members that I would chair the committee. After the Zoom call, Lions Sherelle called me and offered to help me by co-chairing with me. She was invaluable and took charge whenever and wherever she was needed. You can't bottle that kind of energy and commitment. If I could bottle it, I'd sell it and be set for life. I see a bright future for Lions Sherelle as she brings that kind of energy and commitment to everything she does. Dr. Laster is the Melvin Jones Fellowship recipient for her humanitarian and membership efforts in Lions and has served as sponsor, guiding line, third vice president, membership chair, global service chair, and was recently awarded by me with the International President's Leadership Award. This is the 4th highest award one can receive within our organization. Lastly, Lions Sherelle was just elected president of her own club. Lastly, I want to confirm my support for Dr. Laster, as I believe she is also a rising star within your organization. I wholeheartedly recommend her for any endeavor she pursues. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, sir. Ms. Barnett, if you call the next speaker, please.
B, Kevin Smith.
Mr. Smith, same 5 minutes will apply to you, please. Yes, sir. Thank you. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for this opportunity. I've worked hand in hand with Governor Mike George for the last 3 years. He's the current sitting governor and I'm the governor-elect. We have both had wonderful experiences with Dr. Sherrill. She's on top of it. She's fearless. She's loyal. I couldn't ask for a better working partner. To put a little context into this, Governor Mike is governor of District 2S2, which encompasses the 7 counties that include Harris County and the adjoining counties. We have roughly 1,400 Lions in our district. Lion Sherrill's contributions have benefited the entire district, not just what she's been assigned to do, but her infectious enthusiasm, her tenacity, and her willingness to prepare. She doesn't show up unless she's ready, and she always shows up. So she will spend the time that it takes to do whatever she is tasked to do. And I would wholeheartedly support her in any endeavor that she were to take on. Thank you very much.
So, thank you very much. Ms. Barnett, any additional speakers?
No additional speakers.
Okay, thank you. It's now time for approval of the minutes of the May 7th, 2026 regular meeting. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, and let me take pause here just for a second. Since we have 2 trustees virtual today, I'm going to make a special practice to call on the virtual attendees first as a practice. We'll do that throughout the meeting. What happens sometimes is they get caught up in what's going on here, and I forget about a virtual attendee. So if y'all would indulge me, that's going to be my self-discipline to call on people that are remote and then to call on people at the table. All right, thank you. With that all said, are there any corrections? No corrections. Being no corrections, do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
Second.
Have a motion by trustee Wilson, a second by trustee Murillo. With a motion by trustee Wilson and a second by trustee Murillo, we'll now take a vote. Trustees, when I state your name, please respond accordingly. Trustee Saldivar?
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Wilson?
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Broussard?
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Stoma? Trustee Mesa?
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Murillo?
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Vogt is absent. I'll not call his name again unless he pops up on the screen. Trustee Kane?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. The item passes. Special reports and announcements. Chancellor Castillo, do you have any special reports or announcements?
Just real briefly, first, I'd like to recognize former trustee Pierce, who's right here on the front row. Thank you for joining us again. We also have, we just had spring commencement. So from May 9th to May 16th, we graduated nearly 15,000 students, up from 13,000 the year before and up from 11,000 3 years ago. And so I want to thank everyone for joining us. I know we had really, really solid trustee attendance there. And I know that the colleges and the graduates appreciate that. We also have, in terms of forthcoming events, we are going to celebrate and observe the Juneteenth holiday on June 18th. And then we also have obviously Independence Day holiday on July 2nd. And that's all I have today, Chairman. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chancellor. Board members, trustees, do we have any special reports or announcements? Trustee Stoma?
I just wanted to say I attended both graduation ceremonies at Cy-Fair College. I'm just amazed how well these are organized and planned. It's just a tremendous effort. And again, I congratulate and compliment Dr. Jones and her teams in pulling this off. I mean, we had, I guess, close to 1,500 graduates and certificate recipients. And what amazes me more and more each year, that more of these are your dual credit. I think it looked to me, I didn't count them and I didn't ask the number, but it looked like 50 to probably 60, 70% of these recipients were dual credit. you know, each year it just increases and increases, which I believe is a tremendous statement as to the services we provide at Lone Star College System. And I certainly hope that increases. I hope every high school graduate is a dual credit student within our district. So, Dr. Jones, again, great job. Your team did a great job. Please compliment them and just keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Mesa.
Thank you. Likewise, like my colleague, Trustee Stoma, want to give a big shout out to everyone that put together the graduations, at least the ones that I attended. Dr. Wright, Dr. Gonzalez, Dr. Resendez, and Dr. Lambert, and of course their team. Again, huge shout out to all of them for coordinating the graduations, making it an amazing event for the families and for the graduates. And likewise, like my colleague, Trustee Stoma said, I'm hopeful also that we can get more dual credit students graduating from the high schools, from all high schools, and at least in our region and in my region, in my service, or in my in the area that I represent. And also want to wish everybody a happy Pride Month and a happy Juneteenth. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Trustee Mesa. I'll start on my right. Trustee Broussard, any special reports or announcements?
I just want to congratulate Dr. Reed Hart at Montgomery Lone Star College for the fabulous graduation. It was top notch. She and her team did an outstanding job. Everything Dr. Reed Hart does is top notch. That was the largest graduation thus far, and it was just tremendous. And so, congratulations to you and your team. I was glad to be a part of that, and it was really, really good. So, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Broussard. Trustee Wilson.
Yep. Good morning. Trustee Mesa, you forgot it's men's mental health as well this month, but I digress. But yes, I want to just say congratulations to all the presidents and their teams and the college as well for all the graduations really that everybody attended that y'all put on, because I know that's no easy feat. But I also special thanks to Lone Star Montgomery, the CE program, continuing education. To me, that one is special because those are the students we really need, right? Those are the students who just getting their GED, that's the first step. And we always want to honor those students and let them know that they can keep going and continuing on. You know what I'm saying? And those are the ones that are feeling like, a lot of them, you can tell this was a big moment just to get their GED. And I thought that was really special. So to be a part of that, to be a part of that was a great feeling for me. And I just want to thank y'all for the invite.
Thank you, Trustee Wilson. Trustee Murillo.
I just want to echo what my colleagues have mentioned. It is always an honor. It's a privilege to be able to participate in such a momentous occasion. And I'm talking about the commencement exercises. You guys, the presidents and staff, do an amazing job. Never get tired of it. It's always, you always get the chills when everybody walks up, and just truly amazed at the level of interest and talent and excitement. You just feel it in the room. So I just have to mention that. So thank you again and congratulations.
Thank you, Trustee Murillo. Trustee Kane.
I too want to acknowledge these great graduation ceremonies. I was able to attend Kingwood, so thank you, Dr. Gonzalez. University Park, Dr. Dempsey, thank you. And Houston North, Dr. Wright, thank you. These ceremonies really are so well organized. So my thanks to not only the three of you that I was able to attend this year, but also the staff and faculty that put it all together. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kane. We're now going to have a special report from Trustee Saldivar. So trustees, if y'all will kind of bear with me a little bit as we work through this. Trustee Saldivar, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman. Before I proceed with the special recognition, I just want to echo the sentiments of my colleagues. We had a very wonderful commencement ceremony last month. I just want to say thank you to all the presidents and all the staff who worked really hard to make that happen. It's always a great, feeling to see all the students walk across, the stage. And to me, every time I join one of these things, it's always it gets me, I'm always sentimental. Seeing all the kids, well, they're not kids, but seeing all the students walk by and then all their hard work. So thank you very much. I especially enjoyed the Spanish commencement ceremony in Espanol. So everything was really, really wonderful. Thank you. So now for the good thing. If I can ask Officer Emily Tate to please join us at the podium. Just a brief background. Last agenda item, I saw that we had Officer Officer Tater Tot, can I say that? Okay, good. Officer Tater Tot was being recognized. And I just, when I saw that in the agenda item, I thought, well, where is he? I didn't see Officer Tater Tot. And so I just, asked the chancellor, can you please, I asked the chancellor and the chairman, can you please bring Tater Tot in the next meeting? And obviously they said yes. So just real briefly, Officer Emily Tater Tot and retired comfort dog Tater Tot are to be introduced to the meeting. Officer Emily, sorry, I mean, bring my readers today. Apologies, I'm that old. Officer Emily joined the college in July 2022. She currently serves as a police officer in District 59. Previous handler, now owner of Tater Tot. And then Tater Tot joined the college as its inaugural comfort dog in August 2023. Ownership of Tater Tot was returned to Officer Tate by the board on May 7th, 2026. And I have something for both of y'all, but if would you like to say a couple of words?
Sure, of course. Good morning. I'm Officer Emily Tate with Lone Star College Police Department. I developed our therapy dog program, and I had the privilege of serving alongside my partner, K9 Tater Tot, on our department's first K9 team. The program's mission was to provide comfort, support mental health, foster community engagement, and assist victims of crime. And I truly believe we accomplished that. I'm proud of what this program became and the impact it had. Tater came to work every day ready to serve. He showed up for people on some of their hardest days, and he was there to celebrate their best. He really loved all of you. I'm grateful for the time we shared and that Tater gets to retire at home with his family, getting to just be a dog, and preparing for his next role as Big Brother. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to have my colleague read Tater Tot certificate, so if you could just bear with me.
So this is a certificate of appreciation and retirement. And this certificate is proudly presented to K9 Tater Tot in recognition of his retirement after 2 years of dedicated public service to the Lone Star College system as its first comfort dog. Through this gentle demeanor, friendly disposition, and unwavering companionship, Tater Tot brought comfort, encouragement, and joy to countless students, faculty, and staff. His presence helped support the mental and emotional well-being of the Lone Star College system community and demonstrated the profound impact of compassion and connection. The Lone Star College system extends its deepest gratitude for his loyal service and the positivity he shared each day. As Tater Tot begins his well-earned retirement, we wish him a future filled with endless treats. My dog certainly would appreciate that statement as well. Belly rubs, long walks, and continued happiness alongside his devoted handler and owner, Officer Emily Tate. Presented this 4th day of June, 2026, Lone Star College, Mario Castillo, Chancellor and CEO, Lone Star College System. Congratulations and best wishes to Tater Tot.
Would Tater Tot would he like to say a few words for us? We can step over, take some pictures.
What's that?
That's great.
Thank you. As everyone makes their way back to their seats, I'll just run through a list of activities I had since our last board meeting. One, I'll ask the chancellor to make some additional comments on. First, we do want to acknowledge and congratulate the Aldine Management District for a recent $100,000 donation to Lone Star College Kingwood. We had a photo opportunity at their facility where we also have a campus, a center. So we appreciate their continued support. Attended Lone Star College Kingwood dental hygiene pinning ceremony, Lone Star College Montgomery commencement with Trustee Broussard. Congratulations, great event. Lone Star College Kingwood commencement. Trustee Kane, thank you for being there as well. Lone Star College Honors and International Graduation Ceremony, which was held out in the Woodlands. Continuing Education Program Achievement Ceremony, also at Kingwood. Dr. Gonzalez, thank you for the invitations to those events. Also attended North Houston Association luncheon, where they gave away their annual awards. Greater Houston Partnership had what's called a regions meeting. So it was hosted at Howard Hughes's location in the Woodlands, and they talked about the economic vitality of the area, the business opportunities. And Chancellor, if you would add some additional comment to this, I want to acknowledge that the commissioner of the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board, Dr. Wynn Rosser, toured the Montgomery campus with Dr. Reed. I was fortunate enough to be on the tour as well. So if you could talk about that, Chancellor. And then I have one item after.
Yes, sir. So as the chairman said, we were very fortunate to have the commissioner come in person to visit us at Lone Star College Montgomery of his own initiative and at his own volunteerism. And so he came and we gave him a tour really led by Dr. Reed Hart of several programs, EMS, live entertainment technology. And then he also got to see the Student Care Center, our food pantry, and the wardrobe area. I think from my perspective, Chairman, he was very impressed that, as we're doing the thing here at Lone Star College, we're doing it at scale. And one of the things that he asked is, is this just at Montgomery? No, we have them across the entire system. And he was really, I felt like he was really impressed with the work that we're doing here. Gave us a lot of really great ideas about things to look into from the practical. So I'll give you an example. One of the things that I had never even thought of that I am following up on when he was in our closet, which is not an actual closet, folks. It's where we actually have students, clothes for students. For those of us that are first gen, you don't know how to tie a tie. You don't even know how to suit. And so a lot of times, you don't have a pair of slacks. You don't have I remember looking up what is an Oxford pinpoint shirt when someone first told me that I had to wear one to an interview. I didn't even know what that was. And so we're very fortunate that we have a lot of donations in that closet for that. But one of the ideas that he gave is he said, you need to call up funeral homes. And I said, and I thought to myself, that's kind of dark. But he said that when a lot of people sort of pass away, the family's in a point where a lot of those families just want to get rid of things. And so you're actually helping them because they're like, well, what do I do with all these clothes or things and he said that you can actually, if you call funeral homes and funeral directors, that they actually see it as like an added service or an added bonus to sort of the things that they provide. And so that was a really sort of really practical tip that he gave us that we're going to follow up on. From that to sort of how to discuss transfer arrangements with universities on a more sort of technical and regulatory perspective. And so very grateful for his visit. Hopefully it's the first one of many more to come.
Thank you, Chancellor. And thank you, Dr. Reedhart, for hosting us, and thank your team for being such good ambassadors and being so knowledgeable about their programs, which did impress the commissioner. Thank you. And last item I want to report on is a meeting I attended last night, or excuse me, yesterday afternoon late, at BAHEP, which is Bay Area Houston Economic Partnership. Davy Defense is located in Finland, but they've purchased a shipyard in Galveston. They already own a shipyard in Port Arthur. They've been given a contract by the U.S. government to build 5 icebreakers. And this is a multi-billion-dollar, multi-year program. And they made a presentation to BAHEP, and in the meeting prior to the public presentation, there was a small group of us greeting the speaker. He was the CEO of Davy Defense, and he talked about his current partnerships, and this is to my colleagues, his current partnerships with Lee College and College of the Mainland and St. Jacinta College and Lamar College. So my goal, and I talked to him about this, my goal is that at his next presentation, I want him to add Lone Star, and had a long conversation with the chancellor about that this morning. He has a great plan. It's more than workforce development. Chancellor, I don't know if you want to add to that. It's just a great opportunity for us, and we're going to make sure that Lone Star is at the table. That's kind of my point of going out to these events and not just sitting in the audience, but talking to decision makers and pleading and making our case for our capabilities and what we can do, because at the end of the day, we need jobs for our students. And I'll leave it at that. Chancellor, you have any additional comments?
Sure. So one of the things that the chairman and I discussed was traditionally when you go into those spaces as a higher education leader, the main objective traditionally has been, can I get either some sort of upskilling, can I sell or provide some sort of upskilling to these employers, or can we get them to hire our students, right? And one of the things that we're being very strategic and very intentional about which companies we engage at this institution. So one of the strategic priorities, for example, is really around advanced manufacturing, and particularly advanced manufacturing in the manufacturing of goods or services that tie into AI. So not the AI companies themselves, but one of the examples that I've used is imagine going back to 1849, we're not trying to sell people the gold, we're trying to sell the shovels, right? And so one of those things is the data centers that build the AI. How are those servers being built, which is where our Foxconn and Apple partnership comes in? How are they being powered, which is where our partnership, for example, yesterday we were at TMIEC, Toshiba Mitsubishi International Electronics Corporation, I believe is what it stands for. And they make power inverters and things of that nature to power these data centers. And so traditionally that's what we've done. But I think the interesting thing that we're starting to do is one of the things that I've asked the system is, for a lot of things, our size is a limiting factor, but we need to lean into the idea that we are the largest community college system in the state and one of the biggest ones in the country. And so in these meetings that I'm sitting in with the Greater Houston Partnership, it's really clear that in advanced manufacturing, their supply chain is a big problem for them. So there was a particular company, for example, that was speaking about how they can't find a certain spring. And so afterward, I reach out and I say, okay, we have machining shops. What if we make the springs for you? And that is an additional revenue source for us at best, but at worst, then our students can make things that are practical, that are actually applicable. Then you dovetail that, for example, with some sort of entrepreneurial thing where we say, hey, these springs are actually real that people need. There's this huge multinational corporation in Houston that needs it. why don't we just teach you how to not only make the springs, but why don't we teach you how to start a business that makes the springs? And then we'll hand over the business to you, and then you can make the springs, and we fix a supply chain issue for a major employer here in the Houston area, while, for example, a partner like the GHP comes in and has a company either move full-time into the area. Because as the CEO of GHP likes to say, in order to get the businesses to come, a big part of it is, do you have the ready workforce? Do you have a workforce that if this company comes into Houston, do we have the training, the upskilling necessary? And so if we are literally part of the supply chain, and I'll tell you, Chair, this is what I've noticed, that when you have this conversation, now you're a real partner, right? Because the company's like, oh, you're trying to help me do my thing. And so now, okay, most people are reciprocal. Now, what can I help you with? Okay, well, I need you to hire the students that are making these springs, right? And advanced manufacturing, by the way, the average wage in Houston for advanced manufacturing is $106,000. There are jobs yesterday that we saw that you can make $33 an hour and you're overtime eligible with a little less than an associate's degree, right? And so these are the kind of jobs that we are trying to go after, Chairman. And so we're being very intentional about the markets. You know, we also learned in those meetings that SpaceX is having problems finding machining shops that can build things that can go into space, because you have to have certain standards, right? It's one thing to build something that's going to be running around on Earth. It's another thing to build something that's going to go into space. And so we're also leaning into that. And so when we talk about advanced manufacturing, we're talking about a very sort of specific area of advanced manufacturing that we're really sort of trying to tilt into. So thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Excellent report and good information for all of us. We'll now move into the next portion of the board meeting. I'll call on each committee chair for any reports or updates. First is Audit and Finance. We're working with Dr. Vienne to schedule a meeting in June, so that's coming up. We'll report back in August. Next committee is Policy Review, Chair Saldivar. Okay, thank you. Chancellor Goals and Evaluation, Chair Murillo.
So the committee met on May 28th to discuss and plan the chancellor's annual assessment. We will be providing an update in closed session.
Thank you very much, sir. Next is Grievance, Chair Wilson.
No.
Thank you. Next is Committee on Committees, Chair Kane.
No report this month.
Thank you. Next, Remote Virtual Committee Engagement, Trustee Mason.
I do not have any updates, Chair.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next is Technology, no report. I'm Chair, so no report. Next is Appraisal District Matters, Chair Kane.
No report this month.
And last is Board Goals. I'm Chair of that, and I'll have my comments for trustees in closed session. All right. Next item on the agenda, consideration of the consent agenda. We'll now move forward with the consideration of the consent agenda. Are there any items to be pulled for discussion and separate consideration? I'll go remote. Trustee Stoma, any items to pull?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Mesa, any items to pull?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. To my left, Trustee Murillo.
No, sir.
Trustee Kane.
No.
Trustee Saldivar. Thank you. Trustee Broussard. Thank you, Trustee Wilson. Thank you, Chancellor. I believe you have an item.
Number 9, sir. Yes.
Okay, so number 9 will be pulled by admin. All righty. May I have a motion to approve items 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, and 13?
So moved.
Have a motion by Trustee Kane. May I have a second?
Okay.
Trustee Wilson. All right. When I say your name, please respond, please. Trustee Saldivar. Thank you. Trustee Wilson. Thank you. Trustee Broussard. Thank you. Trustee Stoma.
Aye.
Thank you. Trustee Mesa.
Aye.
Thank you. Trustee Murillo.
Aye.
Thank you. Trustee votes absent. Trustee Kane.
Aye.
Thank you. I vote aye as well. The item passes. We'll now call item 9, but I will need a motion and a second to have discussion and a presentation. May I have a motion to approve? By Trustee Wilson. She makes a motion. May I have a second? Trustee Saldivar seconds. And Chancellor, I'll let you tee this off since you pulled it.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman. Dr. Bien, will you join us, please, at the podium? So one of our goals is to always be really transparent about what we're up to at this institution. And so I asked to pull action item number 9, and the board should expect us to pull probably at least one item moving forward to discuss for different reasons, whether it's not incredibly clear what it is that we're doing, or in this case, for example, it's such a large expenditure that I think the public is entitled to an explanation of where their taxpayer dollars are going. There's also some complexity with the history of this transaction that I want Dr. Vienne and myself to be able to explain so that when the board votes on it, we hopefully will have answered all of your questions and the public has some confidence that we are being as transparent with them as possible. And so again, you'll probably start seeing this every month from now on. We will select 1 or 2 items that we will highlight for consideration and further discussion from the administration side. Of course, the board is still free to pull whatever items it would like. So with that, Dr. Vienne, go ahead and tell us what is going on in action item number 9.
Yes, thank you, Chair.
And before you start, Dr. Vienne, let me just give you some advice. Remember, this is for the benefit of the public. The public doesn't necessarily follow our acronyms, our initialisms, what we call things. So I'm going to be listening very carefully to make sure that your terms are defined. Okay. All right. Go ahead,
Yes,
Dr.
sir.
Vienne.
I will work hard to pass the test, sir. So thank you, Chair and Chancellor, for the opportunity to discuss board agenda item number 9, which specifically addresses course materials contract. As the Chancellor has alluded to, this is probably one of the most complex contracts that we have, and it's got a lot of very intricate timeline pieces. So I hope the board will indulge me a little bit, because as the Chancellor said, though you all may be very familiar with several of these actions and the timelines, I don't want to make the assumption that the audience and those listening online or those maybe new to the institution have the same context. So if you'll bear with me, I'd like to go back a little bit in time to provide the board and the audience with that context, and of course, then bring us to current day with this board agenda items related to course materials. So again, as you look at board agenda item number 9, it is the consideration and approval to expend additional funds for purchase of course materials. You're going to hear me talk a lot about Star Bundle during this presentation. And I know that is a matter that we brought before this board several times. But again, I wanted to make sure that everyone is aware that Star Bundle is Lone Star's version of our equitable access program. These are nationwide programs. The term equitable access is used nationwide as a course materials all-inclusive bundle, if you will. So Lone Star's version of this, if you will, we refer to it as the STAR bundle, and that is how it's marketed to students, and that is how we communicate it through our marketing materials. The STAR bundle basically pre-bundles all of a student's course materials, textbooks, course kits, anything that they need that is adopted by the professor as part of the requirement for the course, and we pre-assemble them for those students. Majority of the deliverables is through our D2L, which is our online management system. And then there are physical materials for those courses where it's required, as well as, again, if you may have, like for cosmetology, you may have certain items that they need. And so those items are included for our students as well. The cost of this program is included on the student's account and is calculated at $24 per credit hour for the students, and it regardless of the cost of the textbooks themselves. So it is a flat fee that the students see. Again, all of our students are automatically enrolled in the program. Students can opt out. So the wonderful thing about the program is that the students control the power that they can actually opt out of the program if it is not financially beneficial for them. They have access to all of their course materials required on the first day of class, if not before. So that's one of the biggest advantages, is that they're not waiting for financial aid or their next paycheck to come in order to be able to procure their textbooks. We're doing that on their behalf.
And again, students typically on average in our program save over 30% of overall course materials, if you will. And again, if there are physical materials, those can also be picked up from our bookstore. When you come here, you pass by one of the locations for University Park where they pick up their course materials. So kind of alluded in my entry that we wanted to take you back a little bit in time so you had some context. As the chancellor said, this contract has had many iterations. It's had several times we brought the board agenda item to the board. So in the fall of 2022, an RFP for bookstore course materials was issued. In March of 2023, a board agenda item approved for $20 million for a 5-year bookstore contract. And that contract was issued in June of 23 to the selected provider, which was Academos. In October 23, we transitioned from the previous bookstore provider to our new bookstore provider, Academos. And at that time, we went to more of a virtual bookstore model. That was what was included as the original RFP process. So when we talk about that original BAI, why it was for $20 million, I think it's important for you and the public to understand that it was under the auspice of a traditional course materials program where a student would simply walk into the bookstore, they would find their book, they would order their materials online, and they would actually transact with the vendor themselves, either through cash, credit card, or payments. If a student had financial aid, then they could use the modern day book voucher, if you will, to be able to utilize that. So the original board agenda item and the contract was really with that model in mind. It was the majority of the cost of the contract was actually being done independently with the student and the bookstore, as opposed to Lone Star's involvement with the process. And so I thought it was important to give you that context so you could understand a little bit about the history of the original RFP and the original board agenda item. So as we talk about looking at the new model.
Sorry, Dr. Vian, I wanted to ask the chairman's permission before I jumped in. So on this board agenda item, it says operations of the bookstore under a traditional course materials model. I want to be really clear about what we mean by bookstore. So at the time, will you go back for me one slide?
Yes, sir.
In March of 2023, in June of 2023, in October of 2023, when we talk about bookstore, and you specifically said walking down the hall and there's a bookstore, right? Is it a bookstore though, right? So
Yeah.
what are we talking? Is there a physical place on this timeline where I can go get my books?
So when we switched to the new provider in October, there was not. Those bookstore, and I'll allude to that a little bit further in my presentation,
Okay.
that those bookstores at that time were closed, a part of the original RFP that actually predates me, that actually was moving us from a physical retail space, if you want to a virtual bookstore.
And so RFP means request for proposals, right?
Yes, sir.
And that is how we bid out this contract, right?
Yes, sir. All of them.
So we put out an RFP, Academos amongst other people bid on it. Academos gets selected, and part of that RFP, the request for proposals, is we don't actually need a physical bookstore.
That is
So
correct.
when we're talking about bookstore here, so when you say March 23rd, approved for bookstore services, and then you say virtual bookstore launched, those are virtual, essentially online bookstores. There isn't a physical bookstore. When you and I show up on the scene in the fall of 2023, there are no physical bookstores, correct?
That is absolutely correct.
Okay,
sir.
and I think that's really important because I think part of the presentation here is how this is evolving.
Right.
Right. And so it needs to be really clear that in 23, there are no physical bookstores, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Go ahead.
Yes, no, that was a great point. And yes, we, through the period of time as we were transitioning, because the previous contract actually ended in October. So that's the significance is October is the previous bookstore was here operating through the fall to get the fall launch going. And then the new transition or the new contract with Academa started in October. And so, yes, at that time, those bookstores, if you would have walked by, would have been closed. So, all right. So moving along from the traditional course materials, as we look at it, we knew that we had to do something different at Lone Star. And it was in the original RFP that was issued that Academos, as well as others, respond to their ability to deliver an equitable access program. Again, we call it the Star Bundle, but at that time we were still trying to figure out what that would look like for Lone Star. Many others in the country had already preceded us in their ability to launch such a program. Lone Star was not quite ready at that time when we made the transition. So again, in November of 2024, we came to the board to seek the approval to start the launch of that program. But there was quite a bit of a transition from 23 to 24, a lot of housekeeping on our side that had to be done with adoptions and other things, as well as, to the Chancellor's point, we actually immediately identified that while it was a good thought in theory, and you want to give grace to all of those that considered this previously, that Lone Star itself was not ready to go without a physical campus store, whether the books were in there or not, a retail space. After about 6 months, it was very clear, a lot of conversations with the campus presidents and the students themselves. We quickly determined that our students wanted and some would argue and did argue that our students needed a physical space, a retail store, so that they could go to for assistance for staff and questions about their course materials. And so
Dr. Vian, I'm sorry, what is an adoption?
So related to the course itself. So a professor has the ability to select the course materials or their adoption of any course materials that they want to utilize in that semester for the students. So it's
the adoption is essentially, to put it another way, the adoption is what the faculty member decides is the course. And under academic freedom, full-time faculty essentially, for the most part, as I understand it, decide what is the book that they're going to use.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Absolutely.
And so when they make that decision, we call that in higher ed an adoption.
Yes, sir.
Right. And so when you're talking about sort of what we're not ready, I want to be transparent about what we're not ready about. At the time, there's not a whole lot of process fidelity or confidence in that the adoptions that are being submitted 6, 7, 8, 9 months in advance are actually the adoptions that the faculty member needs when the books are delivered, correct?
Correct.
And so if there's a mismatch between the adoption that a faculty member submits, I think it's in April for the fall. Is that correct?
It was at that time, yes, sir.
Okay. In April for the fall, then if I submit the ISBN number, which is how we keep track of books, folks, and it's off by one number, and then in the fall, when my students start getting the book and showing up to class, we discover, oh, this is not the right version or this is not the right book, then that is a misadoption, correct?
That is correct.
And then who eats the misadoption?
The student is typically in the previous model would have been responsible for returning that book, and they would have been the one that actually had to then, like, so if they bought it off of eBay, this is the book that I was supposed to get, the wrong book shows up, the professor's like, you got the wrong book. The student would have had to have tried to return it or seek a replacement for that.
And in the Star Bundle model,
The Lone Star is responsible for making sure that that student is whole, and we work hand in hand with the faculty to accommodate them to ensure, again, that nothing is impacted in terms of the course, that they can keep teaching as they need to and have the materials that are needed.
So in 2023, when you came and I came and asked the board for the $20 million, we still didn't have it together enough on the adoption and to essentially move to what we ended up asking the board to do on 12/5/2024, which is move to Star Bundle. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
And so we essentially spent, my understanding is we spent a year and a half essentially getting adoption fidelity from the point that the faculty member turns in the adoption until the semester, because if we move over to Star Bundle and those adoptions are not submitted timely or incorrect or things happen, then the college has to essentially bear the burden, the financial burden of that. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And junk into the system is junk out, what they typically say in the textbook world, if you will, is that if we put bad data in, we get bad data out and the student suffers the consequence. And so it was a lot of processes, a lot of timing, a lot of things on the bookstore. Lone Star is a lot. We're a big system, as you know. We're a lot of complexities. How we did adoptions were very different across the board. And so it wasn't just on the adoptions, but it was just trying to make sure that we were all in sync. And then we had the confidence that we were prepared and we had adoptions to the level of accuracy that this type of program demands. And so now we have one of the highest adoption rates in the country. And I would say the faculty and our teams are killing it in terms of how they're handling this. So we've come a long way, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Other question? Okay, just want to make sure. All right. So again, as I was alluding to, is that 6-month period, we realized very quickly that we needed to move back into a physical presence on our campuses. And so again, A lot of movements, a lot of pieces had to happen, a lot of communications, a lot of work to the presidents. And they were gracious to work with us to try to reclaim and work on the proper spaces for these campus stores. Because not only were we reopening the campus stores, we had to determine how much physical space we would also need for the books. Because while the bookstore, like in this particular campus, is in one separate place, you'll notice that the books are different, and determining how many physical books, how many digital books, and what that footprint. So there's a lot that went into that in spring of 2025 on the campus and the auxiliary services team to relaunch those stores. And then again, the stores had to be in place to hold the books, to have the staff. And then we were prepared in fall of 2025 to launch our new course materials model. Again, we refer to it as Star Bundle. So just kind of getting you up to the process and all of the back end items that were going on. And again, this is just a continuation of the chart. As the chancellor asked about the three previous items, when we talk about October 24, November 24 was the approval of the BAI for the fee itself. December of 2024, the spend came forward. And then, of course, as we look at the fall, we launched the actual program. So just kind of walking you all through the program and the timeline that we were going through. And the visual just kind of gives you an illustration of that timeline. Yes, ma'am.
Can you explain what the increase was for in 2024?
Yes, happy to do that. So I can jump ahead to that. When you're talking about the actual increase of the $34 million, again, the original 20 million, and I have a slide that I'll share, kind of sums it up visually better for you. But when we went into the original model for $20 million, that was anticipating that we'd have about $4 million a year approximately that would go through the bookstore contract. Okay, so again, in the original traditional model, if you walked into the bookstore, you might buy your book with a credit card at that time. So our spend as a system was only limited to those students who were using their financial aid. So transform into the bundle, now we're capturing all of those fees on the student account, and I'll show you the percentage of that rate. So that volume of spend for December was $34 million because we had to cover 4 future semesters in that. And at over 1 million credit hours at $24, it doesn't take you long to get to that high of a volume. So again, it was the model itself that switched, that we now had to capture all of those funds, and we have to pay Academus for that. So it's, to clarify, it's not Lone Star operating funds. It's the collection of those fees from the student or from financial aid that are then utilized to pay for these books that we're issuing to the students. Is that? Oh, yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry. I was just asking, did the increase also involve having to actually the cost of living costs that the company increased their cost? So now we have to increase our cost, the cost of making the book, cost of getting the book here, like what?
Yeah, so what we take into consideration, and it was along the lines of the chancellor's point about adoptions. So when you look at so all of the books that we adopt as a system are considered kind of our course catalog, right? It's all the books. So all of the cost of those books are included in the program. And yes, the spend itself was not directly related to that. But as we look at things, I think, we talked about earlier, inflation going up, is the cost of books have increased over the years. But that's one of the reasons we also wanted to go to a digital model, which does save our students a tremendous amount in a lot of cases on that factor. So.
Okay, a follow up. So if we're digital, then why is it increasing? I guess, you know what I'm saying? Because I understand, but somebody else might not understand.
Yeah.
Because when you're digital, you don't actually have a physical copy, meaning that book wasn't printed. You didn't have to spend any money. So why are we continuing to increase?
Yeah. So again, $34 million increase was to capture the ability to pay for the collection of those fees. When you talk about digital books, again, the students are paying $24 per credit hour, regardless of what those materials are. The publishers are, basically they're going to cover their cost. It used to be in the textbook world 20 years ago, they would print one copy of a book and they would put it in a warehouse, and they would not move to a new copy of that book until everything in that warehouse was gone. right? And there was also a resale market for those used books where I could sell it to my friend, or you drive to they'd have people sitting in the parking lot and they would buy your book back for you, right? And there was that resale market. So when you move into digital books, after COVID, there was a lot of on-print demand because the cost of warehousing, the cost of trucking, all of those things got super expensive. So a lot of, even though we're moving to a digital model, they're releasing new releases. They're incorporating AI into new tools. So even though digital doesn't have the cost for freighting and transportation, there's still what you're seeing is they're updating versions a lot more often. And again, we leave that up to the faculty and the discipline as to what those materials are. But a lot of the publishers are moving to newer versions. And you're also not just getting ebooks. There's what we call courseware, which is more interactive. And so a lot of those new technologies do continue to rise in cost because the people who create them and deliver them, want their piece of the pie, for lack of a better word. So I hope that helps you. But digital we're still saving students money, but the cost of textbooks are continuing to rise. So I hope that answers your question.
Dr. B, and I have a follow-up question on
Yes.
Trustee Wilson's question. So if a if a publisher is issuing a new edition over and over, right? Every year, it's like the 12th, the 13th, the 14th.
Right.
I want to be really clear about who makes the decision, the adoption
Yes.
of that newest version. Who is that in our system?
The faculty or the dean of that division, depending on the program
The
itself.
instructional folks.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
The instructional.
So I want to make sure I understand. If there's like a 12th version, let's say, and the publisher comes up with a 13th version, and the faculty say, or the dean, whoever the decision maker is in the instructional branch says, nah, we're good with the 10th edition or the 9th edition or the 5th.
Yeah.
Right. Or like me, who believes the greatest torts book ever written was in 1972 by William Prosser, and there has been nothing good since then. Right. Or one of the best grammar books of all time is Words into Type, also from the 70s. Right. And ever since then, it's all been downhill.
Yeah.
Do I have the freedom
Yeah.
to pick my 1972 version?
Great question. I'm smiling because that does happen. We do have empirical works that are adopted. So as long as yes, the faculty can do it. The caveat is if the publisher still has the previous version available. So
Okay.
meaning it's the publisher that still controls our ability to procure that item. So a lot of times they may still have the 12th edition available, or they may be like, sorry, those royalties, that contract is gone. We only have the 13th version. So it is the instructional side's decision, but we're also limited to what the publishers will actually provide to us.
Okay. And then the last follow-up to Trustee Wilson's question was the conversation about the actual rate of $24 that we charge students, right?
Yep.
That was an action item, not last month, but the
Yep.
month, was it
Yes.
last month?
Yes, sir.
Okay, they're all starting to
Yeah, I
merge.
know. I
Okay.
think it was last month.
Last month, we brought an action item
Yes.
that actually raised that increase. So that is different from this conversation. Is
They're-
that correct? Or are they related or not? I'm not putting words in your mouth, and we haven't rehearsed this. So
No.
are they the
Yeah, no, we
same?
did not rehearse this.
No, and actually, for the record, let me say that this is the first time I'm seeing your slides, and this is the first conversation you and I are having about this, correct?
Yes, sir. That is
Okay, we
correct.
don't do rehearsals at this
No, sir.
institution. All right, so can you explain that? Like, is it related to this? Is that $24 assumed in this? Because I think that goes to the heart of what Trustee Wilson is
Thank you.
asking.
Yeah, that's a great point. So yes, they're correlated. They're
Okay.
not, because the $24, again, we have over 1 million hours of credit hours through the year. So when you look at $24 for 1 million credit hours, that does infer and impact the value of the contract that we have to pay. So while they're different because the fee is one thing and then the contract is separate, this does impact that because of
Okay.
overall cost.
Okay, will you go back one slide for me,
Yes, sir.
please? I think I understand, but I want to make sure. In December of 2024, then that $34 million is essentially we're front paying.
Not all of it.
Okay.
And I will show you that in the slide in a second. We'll show you exactly what that encompasses and what it's used for.
Right, then I will let you continue. Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Bien.
Appreciate it. Yes. Not rehearsed. So, student participation, again, a little bit to Trustee Wilson's point is when we're talking about the $24, when we're also talking about the board agenda item, the reason why, we have to look at this is because we didn't know when we started the program how successful it would be. Industry-wide, you have about 80% participation, up to 85% participation in a program is considered very successful in this market. So we didn't know right out of the gate how many of our students would participate and opt out, but we don't have the luxury of second guessing that. We have to provide materials for everybody and assume 100% participation all the time. If not, then we've not procured enough materials for the student, and it defeats the whole mission and the purpose of the program itself. And so in the fall, we launched with a 92% participation rate with only 8%. That's really unheard of. We've had a lot of schools across the nation that are like, what are you doing? Tell us what happened. How did you get to that? So again, we consider this very successful. In the spring of 26, that has gone to 94% participation. Typically, sometimes you'll have that drop down. We have gone only higher. And then I did ask as early as this morning what summer looked like. And as of today, just prior to this meeting, summer participation is at 95.6%. So we are absolutely trending in the right way. I say all that to say, sir, is all of that impacts the ability of what we're spending, because again, that is a large volume of students that are participating, and again, speaks to the benefit and the value of the program, but does impact the BAI and the spend itself. So I hope that's helpful for you all. And again, I provided you a peer program participation to see that the typical industry is about 86.3% of students that are participating. So we're very excited about our students and hearing a lot of positive feedback from them on that. So again, as we talk about board agenda item number 9, the purpose of this board agenda item is to continue to ensure the continued success and uninterrupted access to our course materials for the STAR bundle program, because even if a student opts out, so the 4% as an example, they still have the ability to use their financial aid to purchase books from the bookstore, and that spend has to be captured in there. So right now we're capturing very close to 100% of participation in the program through this board agenda item. So as we talk about it, again, I think
before
yes,
you
ma'am.
move forward, and I don't know if you can answer this, but do you know why some students decide to opt out of the program?
Yeah, and I think that's a great question. And I think that's what's wonderful about the program, because the students control it and they can opt in and opt out depending on the courses. There are a lot of courses that may be OER, which is open resource materials, that may not have a book. So you might have a student who has 4 classes and 3 of the classes are OER and 1 is a textbook. Well, we want to actually encourage those students to opt out because it's not financially beneficial for them to participate. One of the differences in our program is when a student's actually going through the process, they see this is the cost if you bought your books on your own, this is the cost of the program. So very transparently up front, we tell them if it's an advantage to them, because we don't want them to be in the program if it's not financially beneficial for them. So students have the ability to opt out if the course materials that they could procure on their own are a lot less expensive than what our program provides. Yes, and we do get feedback and we do look at surveys and qualitative research on that. So as you look at, again, I think it's important to note, I've said it, but I want to reiterate for those online, those in the audience, and the trustees, as we're talking about these funds, they're not System Lone Star funds, but we still take it very seriously because they are student collected funds. And so we have a fiduciary responsibility to ensure that we're bringing those items to you all. So again, these are funds that we collect through the student AR, and that students actually get their books, and then we actually pay Academos on behalf of with those fees that we have collected. And so Chancellor, I promise I want to get to your question because it's coming up, but I also want to just show you a visual, just as I did with the traditional program, is this just shows you fees are collected, the funds are covered, we collect them, we pay the vendor, and then the books are provided. So all of those funds are collected and paid to the vendor on behalf of the student. And again, if they still qualify for financial aid or scholarships, those funds can be used to cover these fees. So again, just wanted to show you that visually. Also just wanted to show you to the point of the $24. We took a look at some of our local cost analysis. So even with our recent increase, we still remain one of the lowest, if not the lowest, throughout the region. And what's different as well is that we include the course packs and the course materials, workforce kits as well in our program, and a lot of the other programs do not include that. So for our workforce students, that is also, so example, our nursing kits are included in this, where at other places they're excluded. So I think that is a very important decision when you look at those items. So kind of that's the past, bringing us forward. To your point, Chancellor, in April, we brought the board agenda item for the New Star rate. And then in June, we're bringing forth the board agenda item for the $25 million contract increase. So here's the slide that I feel like addresses the questions that you're asked and a little bit to Trustee Wilson's point. So the original contract in 3 of 23 was really the operating of the bookstore, eliminating the physical bookstores at that time, and was for a sum of $20 million for 5 years. That is the older model where the student is making a lot of the purchases on their own. We're only running financial aid or responsible for paying. So that is the limited amount there. The spend for that period was about $8 million for that semester. So again, you're looking at about $4 million for your long semesters. As we move to December of 2024, we come forward with a new bundle program, and we requested $34 million. So again, I think it's important for you to note, for that period of time, that was covering 4 semesters. So as to the point, Chancellor, is FY26, the spend was $23 million. There's 6.7 that's encumbered right now that's already for the books that we had to order, because the fall books are already procured now are being procured as we speak to be here available for the fall. Those books, the physical books, the digital books, all that has to be done in advance to be prepared for an August launch. So that's what you see for the encumbrance and the pre-encumbrance, because those are materials that we start to order and we have to pay based on the contract so many days in advance as we order and procure materials for our fall semester. And so as we're coming into this board agenda item now for $25 million, what we were trying to get to is a better cyclical. So now we're really talking just the true fiscal year, 3 semesters, $25 million. And again, looking at that is $24 for approximately 1 million credit hours with some contingency for growth. And additional, as we are looking at the future semester, accounting for growth as well across the system. Yes, ma'am.
So the contract ends in 2028. So let me ask, so is this going to be coming to the board every year?
Yeah, so great question. So our intent is for it to come to the board every year for transparency. If the board prefers us to do it as a lump sum, but we had taken the stance that we really want to be transparent with the board and the students and the taxpayers every time we're doing this process, so we can have a better idea of what that number looked like. If you asked me to estimate 3 years ago the volume, we may not have known that we would have been at 96%. So our intent is that, yes, this time next year, you will absolutely see one for the last year of the remaining contract, so that we're going through the transparency with the board. So that was a great question. Yes. Bless you. All right. So again, as we're talking about that, approve the new rate. Again, this new BAI what allows us to cover the cost, again, of our pass-through funds and the physical stores and the staff to operate those. And again, to Trustee Wilson's point, for transparency, we brought this last year. We're bringing it now, and we will bring it again next year for that fiscal year, so that you have a good understanding of the yearly expenditure for the collection of those fees.
And so Dr. Vienne, you're going to have 79 plus, we need to prepare the board, right? So you're going to have $79 million, assuming the board approves this today.
Yes, sir.
Then next year, it's going to be 79 plus whatever that figure is.
That is correct.
So this total sum is going to just keep ballooning.
And that will be the last year of the contract. We would
Okay.
then issue a new RFP. We'd actually probably start on that fairly quickly,
Okay.
because any change in a bookstore provider or program would be a large impact to the institution. So this one has a year, approximately 25 million probably for next year. And then, yes, every year this would potentially, as long as the program remains, that this could be an item that comes forward each year.
So so here's my concern now, looking 2 years ahead, right? So 2 years ahead now. So a year from now, let's say it's another 25, that's 105.
Yes.
Right? So you're going to have a board agenda item for $105 million.
Yes, sir.
Then the next year, now it's for $25 million, right?
So the following year would be a new
Because
contract.
you would start all over,
Yes, sir. A new
right?
contract. It would start back at 0. Yes.
And I'm creating a record on June 4th of 2026 that 2 years from now, right? When we get questions like, wait a minute, why is it now 25? Just like last year it was 105.
Yep.
I'm gonna pull up the snippet and say,
Yep.
we predicted that it would be, because it's essentially an incremental
Right.
contract,
Correct.
right? And every time that we add to the same contract, the sum goes up. So it's not that, I don't want to put words in your mouth. So let me ask a different way. Let me not ask a leading question. you could not have predicted in 2024 what the sum would be today, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So essentially, because we're trying to do this every year you're going to add,
Predict.
Yeah.
correct?
Now, I would say right now, we probably have a better understanding today. So I think in fairness, I probably could have come today for the next 2 years. I think we have a fairly good accuracy based on our adoptions and how clean they are. But again, our intent was to be transparent with the board and be able to bring it each fiscal year. If the board wants us to go in a different direction, we can absolutely do
So
that.
the board
But
could approve it 2 or 3 years and then just
after our
wash their hands of this process every year, correct?
Absolutely, yes. Now that we have a better understanding of the participation, now, of course, different contract, different variables, but for the most part, I feel like we would be able to do a full sum of 5 years should the board not want to see this particular item each year.
Thank you, ma'am.
Can I get that comparison? Because I would like to see, because I just want to make sure that we're doing what our due diligence.
Yes,
You know
ma'am.
what I'm saying, for students.
And to qualify per
A comparison of
person.
what, Trustee Wilson?
Like if we didn't want to do this anymore compared to if we keep going on this trajectory. You know what I mean?
No, ma'am, I don't. That's why I'm asking.
Okay, so you saying if the board, okay, let's just say the board doesn't approve this.
Yes, ma'am.
Then what y'all gonna do?
What are we going to do, Dr. Vian?
So we would not be able to operate the program in the fall. So students would be on their own. We would be able to get through the fall semester because we, as you see with the pre-encumbrances, a lot of those have already been procured for the fall. But the students would not have this program or the cost savings available to them is probably the spring because we would not have the board authority to pay that contract for that amount.
So let
Right.
me, so,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
What's y'all plan B?
I'm
'Cause
sorry,
what-
ma'am?
What's y'all plan B? You know what I'm saying? Like, even though, okay, let's say we don't approve this or whatever, and okay, y'all can make it through the fall, but come spring or further on, then what's y'all plan? What's y'all plan?
So I guess if I'm hearing Dr. Vian correctly, this isn't an incremental cost. It is for the very existence of the program itself, correct?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Right. And so if we don't get this approved, then we cannot offer bookstore services to our students, correct?
That's correct.
Which is a core function of an institution of higher education.
That is correct. And contractually, we're contracted with the vendor through December of 28 to provide this service. As a backup, again, we could always reverse to another model and go backwards in time to where they're paying for itself, but it would be a huge detriment to the students themselves.
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
no,
But
we could absolutely roll back. I'm sorry.
it's such a core function that it's almost like what is our plan B if we can't teach, right? Because you teach from a book, and so if you can't have a book, then we're in trouble, right? And so it's sort of like, what's the plan B for not being able to teach? It's so foundational to our core mission that we've never contemplated a world without books because it's just the way higher ed has been for 400 years now.
Yes, sir.
Is that fair?
I think that's fair. Yes, sir.
Okay. So there is no plan B, ma'am, because we have to make plan A work,
Yes.
right? We have to have some sort of book. Now, I think if I'm hearing you, there's different models
Right. We
for how we
could,
provide that. Like we could go back to the pre-2023 model, go back to the 2024, but then the board would still have to approve those expenditures, correct?
absolutely.
Just like they did back in March
Correct.
of 2023.
Correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
Chancellor, if I may.
Please, let's see, hang on. We've got a lot of people jumping in. Let's kind of come back. So I heard someone over here who chair recognizes Dr. Kane.
Thank you. I just want to compliment the administration for this program. When you think about saving the students 30%, that's very significant. And when you look at the number of students who participate compared to the national average, that's significant as well.
Yeah.
So thank you for doing this.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of hard work on behalf of the campuses, the faculty. There's many more folks that put a lot of labor and love into this to provide this for the services. But we thank you for the feedback and the comment. We very much think that this is tied as well to our completion rates and our success because there is a direct correlation if a student has their textbook on the first day of class as opposed to waiting till October to the first test to get paid to buy that. So we absolutely think that this continues to help support our students in their completion and supports the G's of the institution. So thank you for the feedback, but I would also recognize all the faculty and presidents and the team that make it happen. So
And when you consider that you're saving them 30%, that gives them the extra funds to spend appropriately elsewhere. So that really is a double bonus.
yeah, it's the savings, but it's also the ability to not have to worry about it yourselves. Because as the chancellor said, like if you're starting to look at, well, what is the model? What version do I need? There's a lot of pressure. And so we get a lot of student feedback as well. That's like, even if it was going to cost me $5 more, it's still a service to me because it's just one less thing that I have to worry about doing or doing correctly. And again, I get the wrong book in. So it's the customer service aspect of it. I definitely think the financial is the leading indicator, but I think there's also the customer service and that it's delivered directly through their learning management. And so it just really makes a seamless process. But thank you for your feedback, sir.
Thank you. Trustee Maria?
Thank you for your presentation.
Yes, sir.
Mario, this is one of those topics that it really is important for us to understand because I know that it's complex, but you did a great job. I had two questions at the beginning, but I think you kind of
Okay.
were able to address most of them, but I'm going to go ahead and to ask, sitting on the board, you immediately come with ideas or remember, especially when they comes to books, we anybody discusses book costs. When we're in college, we pay a couple $100 for a book.
Yeah.
And the instructor require you to get a new one, not the previous one. And because that instructor wrote that book sometimes at the university, so you had no choice. All that stuff just comes rushing back. So when you sit on this board and you think, well, let's just get rid of that. Well, once you learn that, the publisher's model is complex and even you describe how the digital book model is also complex and it has all these moving parts to it. So you manage to add, context and explain to it. So now as I sit here, I'm a little bit more clear on a lot of things. I trusted that, I don't want to get in the weeds because I know it is complex and you guys know what you're doing. I mean, you mentioned 30%, all that's all I need to know. But we strive to make data informed decisions here, right?
Yes, sir.
And we have those discussions. So that's why those couple of questions that I have, that's what it relates to. So I'm going to go ahead and ask them. So are we recovering the pass-through cost without impacting the operating funds?
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes,
That's what
yes, sir.
you confirm that. And then is there a particular metric or like a utilization threshold that kind of makes you request the money or I mean, what I'm looking at is I know that because I know that the equitable access program, and the way I look at it is like, well, it's something that needs to happen. It's something that's necessary and, for all the obvious reasons. But when you look at it from a data informed,
Yes, sir.
I want to kind of know what data or what threshold is that?
Yes. So the spreadsheets that actually lead us here today are very detailed.
Yeah,
A lot of formulas, multiple pages, and looking at all the variables, assuming 10% opt out, 5% opt out. All of those factors are considered, and the team and I sit together and determine what is the best for what we feel like will actually happen, so we can build in coverage as well as a little bit of contingency again for growth or things along that line. So happy to go into further detail with that, but there are a lot of data sharing that happens between the Academos, our provider, and our teams to look at the anticipation. And now that we've moved to like a year-long academic, we really see that. And so we
Yes.
have a forward-facing lens now. So we really can dive into the data and try to look at managing our costs, managing the shipping, managing all of those factors. I think there's always room for improvement, but I think our team is doing an excellent job. Every time we turn a curve, then we work on something else to get more seamless in that process. So,
It's always difficult when you don't have something to base it on, right?
yes, sir.
And you reach a point where you actually have that now.
Yes, sir.
And same time, I mean, like you said, you're going to continue striving to improve.
Sir.
Because we can keep coming up with, well, do we really need to do it this way, or is there some other way? When you say you mentioned, is there a plan B? I remember that became an issue when like someone couldn't afford a $200 book.
Yeah.
And the plan B was no book, and they
Yeah.
borrowed it for somebody and go to the library and print out and all that. So, I mean, I'm not saying we do that, but that's how important that issue is.
Yeah, and we're always
Thank you.
striving to make sure that we work with the presidents to make sure all of the materials that a student are needed in there and capturing that information. So again, the whole focus of the program is to serve the students. It's really to have them be successful the first day of class so that they're there and that the faculty don't have to worry about that. We want to take that burden off the faculty and the student. And every time we can get better, we can make sure we're more accurate, then it impacts the student's ability to be successful and their experience with the institution, because they don't know that the bookstore provider is different than Lone Star.
Sure.
Chancellor. So if they have a bad experience with that, that's a reflection on us and something we take very seriously. And so as we look at those things, we think that this is just as important to the Chancellor's point as an instruction, because the student doesn't see the difference between the bookstore provider and us. It's all Lone Star. And so we strive to be as efficient and as effective as possible on that. So,
Thank you.
yes, sir.
Thank you. Chair recognizes trustee Stoma.
Yeah, I just want to say that this is clearly a tremendous value to the students of the Lone Star College system. A tremendous value is being provided here, and we have the money to do it. I just can't imagine not doing it. I do believe, in my opinion, that we should still review this on an annual basis because it's just a good policy, and it reminds us and it reminds the public and the students that of the services, the value-added services we do provide. So I would encourage us to continue to review this on an annual basis and provide this service to the students as long as we can afford it, which should be for the more than the foreseeable future. Thank you.
Thank you, trustee Stoma. And let the record reflect that trustee Mesa left the meeting at 11:49 a.m. We're still having discussion on the item. I'm not being funny, but is your presentation over?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Unless
so
there's
now
any
I
other
can
questions,
ask-
I think that's
Okay, thank you. So any questions? Mario's good. Kane, any questions, sir? Trustee Saldivar? Thank you, trustee Broussard. Okay, thank you, trustee Wilson. Okay, thank you very much. Then we've had discussion with a motion and second. I'll now do a roll call vote. Saldivar? Thank you, trustee Wilson. Thank you, trustee Broussard. Thank you, trustee Stoma.
Aye.
Thank you. Mesa's absent. Trustee Murillo.
Aye.
Thank you. Trustee
Mesa's
Vogt
back.
absent.
Mesa's
back.
back. Chair.
I see that, and I'll get to that. I'm in the middle of calling votes right now.
Continue to call.
Thank you. Trustee Kane?
Aye.
Thank you. I vote aye. Trustee Mesa, would you like to vote on item 9?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Aye.
Thank you very much. The item passes, and trustee Mesa has rejoined the meeting at 11:56 a.m. Central Time. Right. I was going to go back and ask questions about item 5, Chancellor, but I'll visit with you offline since that item's been approved.
Yes, sir.
We'll now move to financial reports. Dr. Vian, proceed to the podium, please. Would you like to take a break?
Oh, no, it's
Sure.
okay. We're rolling. We're
Okay.
good, sir. Thank you for asking. So.
Yes, ma'am.
So again, as we look at the financial statement ending April 30th, as of the close of April 30th, we have received $492 million in total revenue. When looking at expenditures, we have $299 million in total expenditures of the $523 million total budgeted. The biggest item for here is just looking at supplies. There was a specific increase, as you see, from 25 to 26 over supplies, from 3.4 million to 9 million year over year. The majority of that increase was related to technology purchases for campuses and additional supplies and other materials. So nothing that needs a variance, but is just just something to point out as it was a change from year over year for that specific category. So taking a look at that in more of a visual perspective, you can see that we have received 89.8% of our total budgeted revenue of 548 million. Again, 492 million through April. And so again, that still allows us 4 months remaining in the fiscal year of this budget. So definitely trending in the right direction and anticipating that we will exceed budget revenue projections. And I will show you that a little bit more in the variances. So when we talk about expenditures, we are tracking a little bit less in actual expenditures in year over year, 299 million expended with 4 months remaining. So again, 56.5% of budget. So still 43.5% of budget remaining, which is about $230 million of expenditures through the end of April. So as we look at the financial statement, Chancellor, this was an item that you asked about last month. We anticipated that there would be a variance in taxes. We are able to report that we do anticipate that variance to be a positive variance in the sum of about $10 million for taxes, meaning for those that we will receive $10 million more in taxes than we were originally budgeted for this fiscal year. Those variances are a direct reflection of the amount of freeze loss that we compared to what we might have expected. The value associated with 26.01 properties under protest. And then again, specifically, the biggest jump may have been related to properties or new values added to the roll that we would not have seen or would not have been in our original calculation. So in short, our community that we serve continues to grow. And so our tax valuations are trending in a positive direction, but we want to also keep a very close eye on that. We also anticipate that we may receive 3.9 million above investments, which would take us a little above the original budget of 15 million to 18,965. So again, a positive variance. And then with miscellaneous revenues, you will see a decrease in revenues for that item. We did anticipate that a real estate transaction would have been finalized in this year. It is anticipated that that now may occur in the next fiscal year. And so that is what is represented in that variance, is that closing may not happen by August. So wanted to make sure I specifically had some time to address that, since Chancellor, you had asked about that specifically last month.
Thank you. Trustees, any questions of Dr. Bien, Broussard, Wilson, down my left side? All good. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Not cutting you off. Do you have anything else?
No, sir. Not unless you have any questions for me, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
I did want to indicate the financial, we had no variances for expenditures, so I did not go over those, but it was nothing to report on the expenditure side.
Great. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank
Yes,
you,
ma'am.
sir.
Yes, ma'am. Colleagues, we're going to go into closed session. We've got a lot to cover in closed session. So if we could maybe just take a quick break and then I'll collect in the appropriate room. Closed session, the Board of Trustees, in accordance with Texas Open Meetings Act, will move into closed session under one or more of the following provisions: Section 551.071, Section 551.072, Section 551.074, Section 551.076, and Section 551.0761. The time is now 11:01 a.m. Central Time.
12.
I'm sorry?
12:01.
12:01. I'm sorry. 12:01 p.m. Thank you very much. Central Time. I reconvene this board meeting at 1:58 p.m. and let the record reflect that Trustee Broussard and Trustee Saldivar are not present, but were present earlier today. Next item on the agenda is a request for suggested future agenda items. Any suggested future items? Trustee Mesa, anything on your mind? Okay, thank you very much. With no further business to discuss, this board meeting is now adjourned at 1:58 p.m. CST. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.